Umbraco gang, it's me, Warren, and in today's Hack Make Do, we're going to take a look at configuring some static assets and setting some custom headers for CORS or cache control headers. Yeah, something useful to know. Let's jump on in and take a look. So I've built a very basic site. You can see with a crudely made SVG I've made. I'm no designer, and then I've been using the UUI library for some, just styling and very quick content that I wanted to grab. So let's take a look. I've got my developer tools here, and if I refresh, we can see we have the site logo, SVG, and then we can see the response headers. We get powered by ASP.NET and the IIS server and things like that. We can modify this and change some headers. So let's jump into some code and see how that's done. Right. First up, I'm going to have a slurp of coffee, because that will help. And I'm going to create a new class. Add new class. And we'll call this something like static assets headers, because makes sense. And it's going to be an iComposer because we need to do some configuration and kind of change how our site is going to run or work in Umbraco. And we use these with iComposers. And then I'm just doing Alt-Enter to help get rid of the red squigglies and make everything happy. So implement interface, and then I get this lovely stubbed out code. And then in here, this is what we're going to write. So with the Umbraco builder, when we build up our application, we want to configure a specific service. So builder.services, and I want to do configure, and I want to configure a specific type, and the type is static file options. And this is not anything specific to Umbraco, but it's still you're building websites, so this is something handy to know. So this is coming from ASP.NET Core. But let's carry on. So static file options, and I'm going to give it a nice name of options, and then in here we can then this static file options, there is a property or a method we can kind of set. So in here under content type provider, file provider, on prepare response. So we can, excuse me, we'll give this variable name, and then we'll write our code. So every time a static file is going to be served back to the website, it's this code in here that we can then modify the response that is going to get sent back down the wire. So that could be anything, but it makes sense to apply maybe CORS headers, add a custom header, anything, or maybe cache control. So let's do some of that. So let's start off something easy, and so in the context, in the response, in the headers, let's append, we'll just make one up, x custom header date, and we'll give it a date time, if I could spell at date time dot now, and we'll do it to a string, and I can never remember the formats. Yeah, round trip, yeah, okay, I think it's that one. Yeah, just give me a very long verbose date time now string. So let's save that, and let's just test that that works. Let's run our site again. We could add a breakpoint, I suppose, as well, just to make sure. And let's open our network tools. So we can see we've hit our breakpoint. Let's add a couple of watches. So we could do ctx.file.name. So it is the site logo, and we could do ctx.context.request.path to see what the full path of the image is getting requested. And then if for later on, I'm just going to leave this one here, we can see the query strings. If I can, is it capital S? Let's content. Delete that, ctx.context, not content, request, not response, request.query string. And there's no query strings on this SVG. So let's F10 our way through, Y5, and then let's take a look at our site logo. So yeah, in our response headers, you can see that we've got our custom header date, and it's today's date at 11:04 and 48 seconds and so ever many milliseconds. If we refresh, I haven't got no cache in, so the cache is still on, but we should have a different one. So 11:04 and, is that right? 11:04:48. Maybe I should have disabled the cache. Yeah, it has got a cache of already set. Don't remember setting this. Provisional headers are shown. Disable cache to see full headers. Okay, so let's disable the cache. I don't think we explicitly added this, but maybe something has happened from my previous testing and causing this to be a little bit more funky. Right, site's logo. I'm getting more of the headers now as well. That's the request headers even. Where's the response headers? Where they gone? Response. It hasn't replied, that's why, isn't it? It's still sitting. Let's take this breakpoint off because this is going to get probably a little bit annoying. So now I should be able to see the response headers. There we go. So 11:06 and 36. Refresh. 11:06:52. Yeah, so it's definitely working. Brilliant. So we've added a custom header. I think my previous tests with caching has come and back to haunt me, but we'll move on. So with that done, next thing, actually, it's probably, let's add the breakpoint back, and I want to show a potential problem. Come on, Edge. So if I log into the, there you go. Even before, so obviously Chrome and many browsers, they do kind of preloading. So I haven't even finished typing Umbraco, and it's obviously, and hit enter yet, but it's obviously fetching the back office assets. And you can see that here, the Umbraco back office assets and libraries and third-party libraries is also going to get this custom header applied. So to avoid that, because you might not want to add your custom headers or cache control or CORS headers to the back office because it could cause weird side effects, we'll add a little bit of code to stop that. So let's put that at the top of this chunk of code so that we know that it should be ignored. Context dot request dot path starts with segments / Umbraco. If it does, then return, so like exit out early. Any static asset that is from the Umbraco back office. Skip over it, or whatever you want to write. A custom date header. So the next thing we could do is that I could add CORS headers. So CORS being that I can never fully explain it that well, but when another site or server needs to request content or assets from another site, being this site for example, it may the site consume it might be specific in saying that I need specific headers to say that it's okay to request content from another site. And in here we're going to add a new one, response dot headers, and then we're going to append, and then Microsoft has a lovely bunch of header names using Microsoft.net http.headers, header names, and in here there's the one for access control allow origin. So that gives us nice strongly typed, and just makes life easier rather than having to type out string. And in here I'm going to give it an asterisk. I could be more specific with CORS and say only mysite.com can access any static asset content from mysite.com. But I'm going to be let any domain work with this, so that's fine. So this is a CORS header to allow all domains. Next up, we could have some code that takes in a specific file extension. So maybe only for SVGs, I want to cache them. So let's do that. So let's get the file extension. And that was path get extension, and that is from the context file.name. And then if the file extension is .svg, then set a can't type today, specific cache header, and we're going to use typed headers. This adding cache headers can be kind of cumbersome, so Microsoft has some strongly typed approach allowing us to do this a little bit more easier. So almost correct, autocomplete, but I want get typed headers, that's the one. And then we're gonna update or create a new cache control header. Var cache control equals typed headers, cache control. If it's null, then let's create a new one. And then set the cache control to be public. And the max age. So let's have it only cached. It's clearly was working it from my code from previous where it was set to 2 minutes or 120 seconds. Let's set it to 3 just to make sure that that is sending a new header down the wire. And then typed headers, cache control is going to be this cache control. Cool. So let's add a breakpoint here and get rid of this one. Well, we could add one breakpoint here just to test that our back office Umbraco is not going to get modified. Let's run again. Right, so the site's booting up. Let's go to /Umbraco. And you can see straight away our very simple if to check for the path is working. Because it's also cache controlled and bundling and asset minification of the Umbraco back office assets is coming from Smidge, so the third party library. Modifying headers and dealing with caching stuff of the back office assets could cause problems. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that you have something along these lines to make sure you're not modifying the back office. Let's continue. All loads, fine, perfect. Let's go back to our front end. It's found the SVG, or we're dealing with the SVG. And then in our response, let's double check cache control, public max age 180, so 60, 120, 180, yeah, 3 minutes, perfect. So we're gonna wait until 3 minutes until it can be requested again directly from the server. Obviously the browser will keep it cached. But I've got disabled cache set on, so if I do a refresh, it's going to ignore that anyway and come around again. So we could set this to from seconds. Let's try that and see how. So 30 seconds. Is hot reload or the code change going to work? Let's find out. So yeah, it has. It's taken the change. 30 seconds. So let's disable the cache or enable the cache even. Disable the checkbox that says disable the cache. And let's refresh. So we've got one 11, 16 and 30 seconds. Let's just wait a moment or two. Let's check my clock. It's nearly been a minute supposedly, so we can try again. And here we go. My 30-second cache has been expired. And we hit it again. Just double check. 11, 17 and 31. So let's just wait until we just get to 11, 18 and 1 second for the full 30 seconds to have expired. Okay, so around about now, I'll refresh again. Interestingly, that didn't. The joys of debugging caching. And it's a max age of 30. There's memory cache. So let's try again. There we go. Maybe I was a bit too keen or eager. So you can see that is definitely working. The caching headers are working, and we can maybe have a bit more performance site. So the next thing to be aware about is, let's go to the Umbraco back office. Make sure I type in the right password. And we'll do an update another day. We're relatively new. What are we on? 10.2. It's probably 10.2.1 or something. So I've got a media picker or image picker. I've got an image in here. And then if we just quickly go in, I've got a square crop and a banner crop as well. Let's just update a view. So in here, for all my content, let's put in an image of source, and we'll do model.image.url and save that. So this is an Umbraco CMS media image. So let's test to see what happens. Okay, so this is going around for the site logo SVG. So let's continue again. Let's add a breakpoint at the top though. So yeah, here you can see that the media does in fact get cached if you're not using crop URL. So if you're not using image processor, where it adds the image processor width, height, X, Y, whatever, I can never remember all the query strings. If it's not going through image processor, then it will also apply this static file options. Again, that may be what you want. You may want to then start setting headers or modifying the request and the response that you send back. Or you might want to be more defensive and say that anything coming from /media, similar to the /Umbraco up here, don't touch it, don't do anything with it. Again, up to you. However, so let's modify it again. So let's do get crop URL, and I've got an alias of 1 for square. Let's save that and refresh. So a site logo SVG. Let's skip over again, and here you go. So the square or the cropped version. Let's refresh again. Get to the network even. Down here, that has all the query strings. So crop center and X and Y coordinates and bits and pieces. You can see that that didn't go through our piece of code here. So keep that in mind. So that's all I wanted to show for you. You might want to add specific headers for static assets that are, yeah, like this SVG, or I don't know, generic assets that maybe not controlled or content managed by the CMS. You might just want to, the general styling and layout, you might want to manage or cache control some of the headers for that. But yeah, experiment and let me know how you get on. I hope that was useful and you've learned something new today. Go and have fun, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Bye.